Thank you for tuning in to Entertain the Geeky, your source for nerd news.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Jason back at you with more nerd news. So we're going to continue what we started last week, and we're going to do a throwback episode. I would love to hear, suggestions from anybody listening about years they would like us to do. But for this episode, I've got my friend Joe here.
Hey guys.
And he has chosen the year of
1998. Which was apparently a lot bigger than I remember it being, but it was also 20 years ago, so I think that's a forgivable excuse.
Yeah. I mean, we're in 2018. We are 20 years out from the year 1998, and it was a really big year. It was
surprisingly large year.
How many things we had to be excited about as nerds in the year 1998.
I know you guys don't get a whole lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, but we had an extensive list, and it was real hard to just narrow it down.
Oh yeah, we had to cross out topics that we had previously thought we wanted to talk about because we had to narrow it down to just a specific few.
Yeah.
But so we'll start in the movie world, and two notable releases showed up while we were researching. So the official, unofficial, whatever sequel to Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, which was Batman and Freeze Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting. I mean, I think it pales in comparison to Mask of the Phantasm, which is pretty much the best Batman movie ever.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's an argument against that. It is a quintessential, perfect Batman.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can argue. You guys can argue
film,
with us
comic,
out there.
Whatever. Mask of the Phantasm is kind of perfect.
Yeah. Me and Joe are going to fight anybody who disagrees with that.
I think part of the reason Sub-Zero pales in comparison is it doesn't have nearly as hardcore of a mystery plot line going on. And I mean, Batman at his core is a detective.
Right.
And you were missing that quintessential thing. And I mean, that's a big reason why some of the Batman films weren't that good, is because you're missing that element. And it's a necessary element if you're messing with Batman.
Sure. I mean, his first series was Detective Comics.
Exactly.
That's what it was about, solving mysteries.
Well, that's what DC stands for.
That is true.
But that was missing from it. But I mean, it's still a good movie. In the way that even the not so detectively episodes of the old animated series are still good episodes.
Yeah, and Freeze is a great villain in the not only in the Batman story as a whole, but especially in the cartoon.
Quite chilling, I'd say.
Oh, puns! Look at that, he's got puns, guys.
Nope, that's about all I've got puns wise. So you don't have to listen to too many of those.
We don't need to recreate Arnold Schwarzenegger's terrible performance as Mr. Freeze.
No, God, no.
In fact, the guy who did the voice for Mr. Freeze in the cartoon, I always thought was great. I mean,
he was perfect.
He really was.
His
voice was,
he was very monotone in a scary way, and it would give you chills in your spine, which is very appropriate.
Yeah, he almost sounded robotic when he had the visor down.
The filter. Yeah. No, he did a real good job.
Yeah,
so it was a good movie.
Could have been a better movie. Could have been a worse movie.
Right.
Was straight to video. It never actually. Mask of the Phantasm actually hit theaters.
Yeah.
I put that one in theaters. I remember going to the theater to see that movie. And then Sub-Zero was a straight to DVD release or straight to video, I guess. God, 1998.
Yeah, no,
it was straight to VHS.
VHS.
Oh man!
Back in the day when we had to rewind things.
Oh man! And if you didn't do it before you took it back to Blockbuster, they would charge you money.
Did they?
Yes.
I don't know. I went to Hollywood Video.
Oh yeah, we always went to Blockbuster. We lived on Mallard, and Blockbuster was right there.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah. No, those were the places to be on Friday night, getting the new movies when they had 1,800 copies of things.
Oh yeah.
So you'd have a wall of movies. I kind of freaking miss that.
I do too.
Yeah.
Family Video still keeps it alive.
Yeah, I mean, that's because they've got porn.
Well, that's true. They do rent pornography.
Yeah. A lot of it.
They also own all those pizza joints, though.
Yeah, that's true.
The Marcos?
Yeah.
They own the Marcos pizzas.
Yeah.
You get your movie and your pizza delivered right to your house.
Right.
But anyway, so the other live action Marvel movie, and honestly, this might have been the first, really serious live action Marvel movie Hollywood produced,
This is the one I consider, honestly, we can all accredit Robert Downey Jr. pretty rightly so for if he wasn't such a success in Iron Man, the MCU wouldn't be what it is today.
Oh, I don't think that's in dispute, yeah.
But I don't think we would have been able to make Iron Man on the level it was if we didn't have the success of the Blade franchise.
Yeah.
Because those were the first successful comic book films.
Yeah.
Like, we had, good ones, and, like, the Tim Burton Batman films in 89 and 90 did pretty well.
They were
But,
alright,
like,
yeah.
Blade was a box office smash when
Yeah.
it hit.
Not to mention, first rated R superhero movie.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, everyone gets on this whole thing nowadays with
And-
Deadpool and Logan, like, oh, rated R superhero movies. Blade did that first.
Yeah. No, and, like, that's part of the reason I'm glad, in retrospect, that I ended up picking 98. Because, like,
Yeah.
right now we're on the cusp of, like, Black Panther coming out, and everybody's like, yeah, the first black superhero. No,
Blade was the first black superhero. Yeah.
Blade. And
So graced our screens.
the first two movies were really good. The third one, like, I'll watch it because Ryan Reynolds is in it,
Sure.
and it's not bad.
I thought the second movie went a little off the rails with the vampires that eat vampires thing.
See, I
That was a
really
little goofy.
enjoyed that. I really enjoyed, like, upping the chain of command. But I'm also, like, Luke Goss is freaking
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
And
no.
I need him in more stuff because he's legit, like, the villain in two of my favorite comic book movies, Blade 2 and Hellboy 2. He
That's
keeps showing up
true,
in the
yeah.
second
That's
part
true. I
of a
forgot
film
that he was in
franchise.
Hellboy 2
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
yeah.
he's Nuada.
Mhm.
And he's great in both parts. And I freaking love that, man. I need him to play more things.
Yeah, I mean, so the first Blade kept it simple and just went with
Yeah.
an ancient vampiric prophecy about a blood god.
Mm-hmm.
And we had, Deacon Frost, who was a character within the pages of the comics.
Right.
He's obviously changed and kind of
Yeah.
hipped up a little bit for
Right.
for his role
But we
in the
got
film.
Chris Christopherson as Whisperer.
Whistler, yeah.
As Whistler.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
I need more
Whisperer.
coffee. I need more coffee. Yeah, so
That was
Whistler-
perfect, yeah.
No, he was
Oh, it's great.
perfect. He completely embodied that character correctly in the same way Wesley Snipes completely embodied Blade correctly.
Yeah,
It
I
was
mean,
a
I don't think
fantastic
Wesley
film.
Snipes gets enough credit for some of the films that he's been in. He's been in some amazing films, but
Yeah.
he definitely shines as Blade and,
Oh, yeah.
and really takes center stage. And yes, he's kind of a vampiric, emotionless character, but you do
Right.
understand his plight, and you have the tragedy of his backstory that gives you the emotional
Right.
connection.
I mean, part of the tragedy of the character is the fact that he's emotionless because he always has to be in control.
Yeah.
Like he has no other option.
Yeah, that's why the climax of the film, even though a little of the weird blood CG animation was kind of wonky, the climax of
it
the
was
film with
1998.
well, that's true, it was 1998. Well, but look at Jurassic Park.
Well, that's fair.
You can't talk about 1998.
Yeah, but how much money was thrown at Jurassic Park as opposed to Blade?
It's true. It's true. It's true.
Anyways,
But no, like that's a moment when you see the monster that is Blade, kind of come forth and really start to, just leave the pieces of him that are human behind. When
Yeah.
he gets in that sword fight with Deacon Frost,
Yeah.
possessed by La Magra at the very end of the
Yeah.
film. That's great.
no, it was
Super
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. So we're going to jump over into the comic side of things, and this was almost all you.
I mean, yeah, no, this was why I chose 1998, because, like, I was, before then, watching, like, the X-Men cartoon, the Batman Justice League
Sure, yeah.
stuff, and picking up, this Batman comic or that X-Men comic here or there. But in 1998, at the time my mom was working in a bookstore, I was becoming slightly more adult in mind.
Sure.
I caught Spawn for the first time on HBO, both the cartoon and the movie that had come out the previous year.
Yeah.
And so I started picking up comics on the newsstand, and one of the ones I picked up, which started my true hardcore love of my favorite comic book character of all time, was Dark Horse Annual 98. And
Yeah.
it had the Right Hand of Doom, which was super essential in the Hellboy mythos, because it was the first time we started hardcore getting into what that big stone rock,
Yeah.
the hand he has, is.
Yeah. Starting to explain,
yeah.
what this is for. Yeah.
Because obviously, at the time, I didn't know any of that.
Right.
Like, because this was the first Hellboy comic I read.
Sure.
But in retrospect, like, before then, like, yeah, it had come up from this villain or that villain, like, that he was destined to destroy the world.
Mhm.
And the words Right Hand Doom had definitely been used in the first arc,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Seed of Destruction. But this was the first time he went and, like, sought out somebody for information about what this thing is. And even there's a very poignant moment in the issue. It's not an action-packed issue. It's definitely just exposition, as Mike Mignola will do in a lot of his issues.
Exposit all over the place.
Yeah, no, that's kind of his deal. There's a very poignant moment where, like, you can both from the artistry and even how, like, the word bubble is written, you can feel Hellboy's emotion about the idea of, like, what if I just cut it off?
Sure.
Yeah. Because, like, can't I just get rid of this? And, like, the priest he's talking to is like, you probably could, but what if it falls into the wrong hands? Right. And he basically realizes, like, yeah, I've got this world-destructing thing that I want no part of. But unfortunately, it's kind of my burden at this point to protect it from the people who do want to end the world with it. Because if I lose it, like, someone else is just going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they don't need him to use the hand for its purpose.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And
the
I mean,
hand
like,
is just the key to all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things, like, in a later issue, a similar idea is Hellboy's quote-unquote true name that comes up now and again is Anung Unrama, which we find out at some point is just a title for who wears the crown of destruction. And this comes up because he actually has the crown taken away from him in an issue. So he's no longer Anung Unrama.
Okay.
Kind of situation.
Yeah, you definitely are way more steeped in the Hellboy mythos than I am at this point,
brother. I really like Hellboy.
No, that's great, yeah.
And if you've never read it, I super recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, I've read stories here and there, and I've definitely seen the films that they've done. Yeah. I'm excited about a new film.
Yeah, no, I will forever be sad that we're not getting the Hellboy 3 from Guillermo del Toro. But I'm not letting that color my excitement for David Harbour. I think he's going to do a great job. He
definitely shed the dad bod and got ripped for the role.
That reveal, he looks so good. And I'm super excited for it because that dark mystery story kind of thing is definitely right up my alley. Yeah. I mean, I grew up on the original Grimm Brothers fairy tales. Like, words. They're hard. You know, like the unedited ones, where everything's dark and terrible. Like, that's what I got as bedtime stories. And my brother super got into Lovecraft at a young age, so I started reading, like, I think I read Mountains of Madness for the first time when I was like 6.
Okay.
So
yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a Hellboy movie taken seriously.
Yeah,
not that the Ron Perlman ones weren't serious.
No, they
had their moments. I wouldn't say real good.
I will.
I think the first one is fantastic. I think the first one does a good job. I like
the second one even better.
I think the second one failed in one huge way for me that could have made the movie so much better, is that they didn't spend enough time with the elves.
That's fair.
The elves are a huge part of the Hellboy mythos. They're a huge part of Mignola's universe.
They are.
They are
like,
a great
Irish myth and legend is definitely huge in there, as presented by, like, the Chain Coffin and others. Like,
right, I haven't read a lot of Hellboy, but I have read enough Hellboy to know that the elves were severely underutilized in that film, and they could have been a much bigger part of the plot.
Yeah, I thought they did a great job with it. I love the troll market so much.
The troll market was great. There was things about that movie that were fine. I just feel like the elves, I don't know why, but for some reason when I read the comics and got to know these creatures, something about them stood out to me more than everyone else, and I feel like they were kind of almost more important to the story than the movie gave them time on screen for. You know what I mean?
That's fair. I mean, maybe we would address
they were just
that
a
more
plot
in the third
device.
one.
Maybe we could have got more.
I don't know.
Relationships.
I love that movie for the same reason Mike Mignola hates it, and it's because it's a new Hellboy story.
Sure. Yeah.
That wasn't his direction.
Sure.
And I like new stuff.
Well, no, I mean, comic book movies have definitely proved that we don't need to adapt a story word for word in order to make it work.
No.
You can find your own way to adapt. And I hope that's what they do with the new Hellboy movie. I hope they find a way to adapt a story from the comic world.
If it's just Seed of Destruction over again, I will be kind of disappointed by that.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway.
But yeah.
So, otherwise, comic-wise, like, Marvel Knights happened.
Yeah, Marvel Knights started that year.
Which was super important because, I mean, I don't know how many of you know, but, like, Marvel was super close to just dying off.
Yeah, in the late 90s. I mean, their company almost went bankrupt.
If any of you have ever wondered why, like, everybody else on the planet owns rights to movies for Marvel, it's because they sold all of them to try to not go bankrupt.
Right.
And part of what kept them alive was the arrival of the Marvel Knights, which was Daredevil, Black Panther, and
Inhumans.
Yeah.
Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee's Inhumans.
Yeah, which brought up the new royal family.
Well, yeah, and,
cool.
And in all reality, the big thing that I think they started to understand in those years was some of these characters. I mean, the very same year they canceled the Daredevil series that had been ongoing for so long, only to relaunch it as Marvel Knights Daredevil.
Yeah,
with the advent of the Marvel Knights storylines. So I think one of the big things that they realized that year was some of these characters' stories had just become very stale, and we needed to find a new way to tell them, in order to engage new customers. And honestly, really, it's the late '90s, right? It was all about having the edgy character, right? That has adult themes in his book. It's not about superheroes saving the day from the bad guys,
right?
It was about trying to show a grittier take, and I think that's what Marvel Knights did really well.
Oh, absolutely.
With Daredevil, Black Panther had really already kind of been on that road because Christopher Priest had been writing it for a while at that point. Yeah,
he was definitely going a little darker in his storytelling,
so
which was good.
Pretty much rebranded his book for that.
Yeah,
he just got to keep going.
Yeah, they're like, keep writing. We're just going to put a new face on it, kind of situation.
But then Inhumans, obviously, I mean, Inhumans were a part of stories before that, but understanding the intricacies of their royal family, introducing us to brand new Inhuman characters that were a central part of the story. That became who the Inhumans are even today as characters, right?
That was when we got like Black Bolt and
Black Bolt was a character before that.
Well, we got them as central figures.
Right. This was the first time they had been, the focal point of the story, and we got to see how they lived their day-to-day lives, and they started fleshing out where they came from. Right. And how they came to be in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah. And the success of those books, and then, Blade really saved Marvel from going
Blade got added to Marvel Knights. Punisher got added to Marvel Knights.
When did we get the Punisher Max series?
Punisher Max followed almost quickly after that, but it started as a Marvel Knights story.
Right. Yeah.
And then, Punisher Max came along when Garth Ennis took the reins.
Max was so good.
Max was amazing.
That's probably
all the Max comics are pretty good stuff because they did a Wolverine Max story. They've done a Daredevil Max story. All the Max stories are pretty much really, really great.
Yeah,
comic book stories. So I mean, obviously there was more comic stuff that happened that year, but we had to whittle the list down. Yeah. So over on the TV side of things, we had Trigun.
Yeah, which is my favorite anime.
It's up there,
which is why it's on this list. Yeah, it's my favorite, closely followed by like Cowboy Bebop, and then Fullmetal Alchemist, Outlaw Star, and some others. But Trigun's always been my favorite. Legato Blue Summers is one of the scariest villains ever created.
No, absolutely,
I love him to death.
I loved Trigun, and I think something changed for me along the way because I felt like the beginning of Trigun was better than the end of Trigun because when Vash was just being himself, which was this goofy, kind of clumsy, just fun-loving guy.
Right, who just gets into stupid situations.
Right, and then we have to see a more kind of serious side of him in those moments, but he always goes right back to the fun-loving guy. Right. And I think when that shifted and they changed his personality to be dominantly serious throughout the end of the series, it lost something for me.
That's fair.
I understand why they did it, right? I get the point, but I just feel like the show suffered because we didn't have that comic relief Vash character anymore.
That's fair. Personally, I like the second half better.
Sure.
When
I'm in the minority on this. I know I am.
And I mean, it's not an invalid point. You're allowed to be wrong. You're welcome. No. I think that's part of what drew me to it so well. Is I was watching it on Toonami, I think, or something. I don't remember exactly. I mean, you were, it was a mostly funny, goofy anime, and I was just having a good time between the blues music and the Western theme because I grew up on Clint Eastwood a bit.
Sure.
And I need me a Colt 45. But that's a different subject. But no, and then we suddenly had the introduction of Legato Blue Summers and took a hardcore series route and started getting into Vash's backstory real hard. And I really enjoyed all of those moments. And to this day, still, my two favorite episodes of it are I think it's second or third to last episode, when Legato does his thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that spoilery. You know what? I am. It's 20 years. If you haven't watched it, you suck.
Yeah.
But no, when when Legato does his thing, taking over a town and makes Vash actually kill him. When this is the first time Vash has killed anybody in like over 100 years.
Right.
Yeah, he's not human. Deal with it. Like forces him to do that because of how psychologically damaging it is.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is my favorite episode. Again, followed closely by the actual flashback episode where we see Knives and Vash as children.
Yeah.
And how everybody ended up on this planet.
Right.
Like, those are the best parts of that show for me.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I think that everything you just said is 100% true. Those are great moments in the show. I just think that what keeps it from being number one on my list is what I stated, right? And I think
that's fair.
I don't know what number one on my list is. I've never actually sat down and made a top 5 list, but Trigun would be very close to the top, even though I think it suffers in its second half.
That's fair.
But yeah, so I mean, if you haven't watched Trigun, you've had 20 years. What are you doing with your life? Go watch Trigun. It's pretty amazing, regardless of any criticism that I've levied at it.
No, it is a fantastic show.
So also, this was something that I didn't get to watch until much later because when I was a kid, we didn't have HBO as a regular TV station.
No, that was one of those
because there was naked people on HBO, and my parents didn't want me seeing naked people.
It was one of those lucky years in my childhood where we were doing pretty well, and my parents got a nice cable package deal. And part of the reason they bothered with HBO is because like going to movies kind of sucked. There wasn't really a good theater near us. That much, so like we would have
a supplement for that.
Yeah, so we'd have like family night where we'd watch a movie on HBO together once in a while or something, you know.
Sure.
And so that's how I ended up at 8 years old seeing the Spawn HBO series.
Wow, I'm old.
Well, my parents. It also helped that my parents were very relaxed on stuff like that. Because like at this point, I'd already been like reading Shakespeare and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I was a teenager.
Mom was like, he already knows stuff, like, whatever.
Yeah, I was a teenager, and my parents didn't want me seeing naked people.
I mean...
You were 8 years old, and you had the naked people channel.
Yes.
I was hella jealous.
Yeah, I mean... see, I didn't even look at it that way, either.
I mean, sure,
you're 8 years old
brain. Right, you're 8 years old, why would you look at it that way? This was 1990s.
Yeah, right. But no...
We didn't have the internet.
But yeah, so I saw the Spawn cartoon.
Yeah, season 2 of the Spawn cartoon aired from springtime in 1998 to early or late summer, I guess.
Yeah, they were short seasons.
Yeah, they were. But they basically, I mean, they were great because they just recreated the comic series.
Yeah, no, they basically just took an issue and used it as a storyboard and then animated in between the panels.
Yeah, it worked really good. And, it wasn't the most
I wish I could
visually impressive
the voice actor's name for Spawn.
Yeah,
he's a hardcore famous black guy. He's been in a million things. He's got that gruff voice. He was also like the sergeant in Halo. Like he's been in a million things. I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name.
But I love every part about that man.
Yeah.
Like he's on my list of if he's in it, I'll watch it.
Sure.
But no, he was perfect for Spawn because he's got that grizzled veteran attitude.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Spawn cartoon, it had its ups and downs, right? It was up in the way that, it had great voice cast who basically just recreated dialogue bubbles from the comic pages on screen. But I think it suffered a little bit in the animation department because they were trying to make it look like Todd McFarlane's art.
Yeah.
And that just made the animation come across as kind of flat.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
It didn't have a lot of depth to it.
The art direction was a little shoddy. That's the word I'm looking for, shoddy.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same thing I think that happened with The Killing Joke, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't enjoy The Killing Joke as an animated feature at all.
No, dude, there was a reason for, when that was coming out and we got a trailer for a week. I thought it was a fan-made trailer because the art direction is kind of terrible.
Yeah, and Spawn suffered from that same thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it bad by any stretch, but it does make it a little hard to look at sometimes.
No, and it super suffered in some of the fight scenes that happen because it has this dark, brooding attitude. So half of the screen's just black because it's taking place at night in an alley, and I can't see half the fight, and that's just unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
Season 2 of Spawn aired. Then we had one more year. We only went 3 seasons. So the following year, so 99, it was canceled, and we ended it.
Yep.
A little shame. It was
unfortunately. Yeah.
So we got a little bit of time here. We're going to squeeze in here at the end some video game stuff. And honestly, when I say squeeze in at the end, it's really funny because we forgot about this when we were making this list of things that we needed to talk about, and we did squeeze it in at the end.
We realized we hadn't plotted out video games because we got so caught up in comics and other things.
Right.
But there were some...
98 was major.
There were a lot of releases.
Major releases.
And unfortunately, we're not going to get into all of them as much as I'd like to.
Maybe we'll do like 98 Part 2 sometime.
Part 2. No, it has to be called Part 2.
Part 2?
Exactly.
Like Hot Shots Part 2?
Exactly. Exactly what I was thinking of.
So yeah, it came down to your list.
The two major ones in my life, Pokemon Red and Blue hit America. And...
yeah.
So did Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, the first true 3D Legend of Zelda game.
And I still love the crap out of that game.
I do.
I still hate the Water Temple.
Yeah.
I mean
now I know it forward and backward now, so
right.
I don't hate it anymore. But
well,
when I was a kid, I hated it.
No, see, that's the thing. Like, I get that feeling still every time I go in there.
But you know exactly what to do now.
Yeah.
No, I know exactly what to go to first. When to raise the water level.
Exactly what to do, but every time I'm in there, I just automatically remember, like, God, I fucking hate this place. I'm just in that mood the moment I'm in that temple.
No, I get it.
But, yeah, no.
But it was a great game, man. Like I said, Nintendo 64 had been blowing us away with its 2D to 3D conversions.
Yeah.
We had, Super Mario 64, obviously, at that point. We were on the cusp of Donkey Kong 64 becoming a thing. They were already previewing it and showing off pictures and stuff like that in Nintendo Power. Yeah, I mean, and they bring Zelda to 3D just beautifully. I mean, everything about fantastic. The game, from how the combat system works with the targeting, to how you move around the environment, to being able to ride on a horse, to having up to that point the largest map we'd ever seen in a Zelda game.
Yeah, no, that thing was amazing. Huge.
Yeah, it was just amazing.
Like that's why it still makes me nervous to do the various little parts of getting the giant's knife.
Oh man, you gotta run all the way across the map.
Yeah, because you
can't do the quick travel because otherwise you end up in the volcano and then the eye drops have to be kept cool. If you go into the volcano, they become inert.
And it sucks to try to run across that map, especially as a kid, because this map is huge. Because at the time, yes, this was the largest game map ever,
and it was timed. So you start time would start ticking down.
You had what was it, 3.5 minutes?
I mean, it was under 5 minutes for sure to get there.
And boy, does it stretch time.
Right, it was one side of the map to the other, because Lake Hylia was on the other side of the map from Death Mountain.
Yeah, no, it's literally the longest distance you can run on that map, and they super boiled it down to exactly how long it should take you to do that, and put it
gave you time
seconds. 3 seconds ahead of that. They'll pull it off, right?
Yeah. It was tight. I mean, to the point where you had to park the horse outside a little shop.
Yeah.
So that as soon as you popped out, you just jumped on that horse and took off across the map.
Right.
Oh man, crazy.
No, I love that game.
Every bit of that was worth it though, because that sword was giant and just destroyed everything very quickly. even bosses.
Yeah.
Right? No, get that sword when you are able to within the game.
Yeah.
You will be having an easy time with bosses from there on.
Oh, easily.
Bosses you have to hit 16 times. Now you only got to hit them 8 times.
Yeah. They cut the boss fights in half. Real well.
It really
is good, because it's twice the size of every other sword in the game.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
But no, I loved that game. I did at one point own an Ocarina.
I never actually that guy. I did have a replica of the Master Sword, but it was plastic.
Me and my friends would constantly play in the woods near my friend Eric's house, and it was usually him, myself, and Ben, and we'd all pretend to be various suit colors.
Of course.
I was always Zora's suit, and Eric was always
Goron suit.
Always. Yeah, he had to be the
resistant one. Yeah.
So Ben would always get stuck with the green tunic, the classic.
Oh man.
And we were always those kids in the woods hitting each other with sticks.
All right.
Yeah.
I definitely think that Ocarina of Time also had within it, for the first time in the Zelda game, trying to flesh out Link's backstory a little more.
Yeah.
We knew about Zelda. We knew Zelda,
right.
How she's tied into the fate of the world, and she's always going to be tied to Ganon and Link as characters. We actually got to understand Link
as a child,
a Hylian, and was abandoned in the Kokiri forest with these elven children.
I mean, can you really consider it abandoned when his mom brought him there seeking sanctuary and died?
Well, okay, sure. Maybe she didn't abandon him.
I don't know that that's abandonment when she literally dies.
Okay, but she's not there, and he grows up thinking that he's one of these people.
He's orphaned, not abandoned.
Whatever. Okay.
There's a distinct difference.
All right, he's orphaned. Fine. He's orphaned in the Elven Forest.
It still makes me sad watching the Great Big Tree die at the end of that first dungeon. That always sucks every time.
Made me very sad.
The Master Quest edition was so good though. On GameCube, I really like the reconstruction.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the one on my disc, right? Yeah. Like, so I have that little promo disc for GameCube that has Zelda 2, Adventure of Link, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask on one disc,
right?
And the Ocarina of Time is the Master Quest version. Yeah, it's not the regular Legends of Zelda.
I'm really glad they did that.
Well, they had done it with Legend of Zelda as well.
At that point, been playing this game for 10 years. Oh, cool, you revamped all the dungeons. Right. I don't know how to do this. Fuck, I'm going to be more mad at the Water Temple.
That's true. That's true. Master Quest did make the Water Temple much more frustrating.
I mean, like, it made being inside the frickin' whale as frustrating as the Water Temple was originally.
Yeah. Yeah,
like, that's when you knew you were in trouble, when Jaku is as terrible as the Water Temple used to be.
Well, it was just, when you're first going through that whale, it's a series of big holes that you have to fall down one of them, and there's 10 of them, so take your pick.
Yeah.
Take a guess. Yeah. We didn't have the internet.
What's behind door number 1?
Right, we didn't have the internet. We just had to try stuff and hope it worked.
Yeah, no, you occasionally got lucky because Nintendo Power would print a walkthrough.
Yeah.
And then everybody would buy it.
Right,
and then you wouldn't have it.
Well, but then you had to go out and buy Nintendo Power. You're sitting there playing the game. You might not want to leave and go down to the grocery store to get you a copy of Nintendo Power.
The grocery store.
Well, that's where I bought my Nintendo Powers. Where'd you buy your Nintendo Powers?
Video games, etc.
Oh yeah, I went to the grocery store. They had them on no one ever went to the grocery store for Nintendo Power. There was always copies.
I mean, that's fair. I did used to go to Hy-Vee for like Guitar World magazine.
Sure. Yeah.
Which, if you don't know what Hy-Vee is, like,
you're not old.
You're not in a certain part of the Midwest, I guess, which, thanks for listening. But it's a grocery store in, like, the upper Midwest.
That's true. So really quickly, obviously also Pokemon Red and Blue. Pokemon made its way to America.
Yeah, and that thing landed hard.
I was the saddest little kid ever, I'm going to tell you what, man. Because I was actually the little kid who had 2 Game Boys and a copy of Pokemon Red and Blue, and I would trade Pokemon with myself. I was the saddest little kid ever.
You were that kid.
I was the saddest little kid ever.
I believe my wife did a lot of that, and so did Anthony, up until they met each other, and then they would just trade with each other.
Certain Pokemon you had to trade or they wouldn't evolve.
Yeah.
And then you had to, be completely 100% sure who you were trading with, so that they wouldn't go, ha, I got your Pokemon now, and not trade back.
Do you remember all the butthurt little kids that you couldn't start off with Pikachu?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that wasn't the original intent.
Bulbasaur,
and finding out,
Charmander.
Finding out that you started on hard mode if you pick Charmander.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, having to, grind forever.
Fire Pokemon are terrible early on in the game.
Yeah, no.
They're great later in the game.
No,
early on in the game, they're terrible.
Brock is impossible unless you get other Pokemon.
Yeah, you need a Squirtle or a Bulbasaur, or you're going to have a hard time with Brock. You're going to have to basically run around and catch, the little Pidgeys and Caterpies and Weedles and evolve them before taking him
on. And then, right after that, you got Vermilion City, so freaking all the
water Pokemon.
Yeah. And then, what is the water Pokemon gym? Cerulean. Yeah.
Cerulean gym where Misty is.
You go right there afterwards. Yeah. Oh, cool. Now my fire Pokemon's going to die in a heartbeat because water jets from every direction.
Yeah.
The first 3 gyms were basically impossible if you pick Charmander.
Although, if you pick Charmander, because there was always those moments where your rival would challenge you, if you pick Charmander, you always destroyed. Because if you pick Charmander, he picked Bulbasaur.
Yeah.
There was no random nature to that. If you picked Squirtle, he picked Charmander. If you picked Bulbasaur, he picked Squirtle.
Yeah.
It was always the same.
No, you would always just murder him.
Yeah, he would always pick Bulbasaur if you picked Charmander.
And back when your rival was a dick. Because now they're your best friends.
They are your
best friends. And the new ones, and it's weird. How is that a rival?
I don't know.
I need them to be a douche.
Right, I don't understand. But
no, I always pick Charmander because I don't care if he's not a dragon type. I need a Charizard. Yeah. Charizard is, and still is, one of the coolest Pokemon of all time.
He's definitely one of the coolest Gen 1 Pokemon.
At some point, I became Eevee is my favorite Pokemon, but Charizard's still my second favorite.
Sure.
I really like Eevee.
So we have talked your ear off about everything that we thought was awesome in 1998.
Yeah, no, we're gonna have to do a part 2 at some point.
We might have to do part
talk
2.
about like Resident Evil 2 to make you happy.
Oh man, StarCraft.
Yeah.
What else? What else did we not talk about? We didn't talk about the Powerpuff Girls. Powerpuff Girls happened in 1998.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about we didn't go into depth about Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee's Inhumans, which I love so much. I would like to talk about in depth at some point in the future.
That's fine.
We might do like a blog review or something.
Yeah. No, there was a whole lot in 98.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
We could have an hour-long episode just about the great movies that came out in 1998.
It's true, but it's always we always got to keep it within our sphere, though.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of good things that were awesome in 1998, but how many of them came from the nerd category?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Not too many. Fair. I mean, more than I thought, but not too
Definitely
many.
more than I thought.
But not like we have nowadays where everything's about the nerd stuff.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot harder to do flashback episodes of like 2015.
Yeah. It's nerd utopia now.
It is. And part of me is like real happy about it, but at the same time, part of me is like real mad about it.
Sure. Yeah. But, I want to thank Joe for picking 1998 and coming on the show to wax about the nostalgia.
I'm real glad I did.
Yeah. It was a
good time.
But I would love to hear what you guys think. I would love to hear, if you got a year you'd like us to talk about. Maybe it was the year you got into the nerd culture. Maybe it was the year you first read a comic book or first saw a comic book movie.
Right.
I would love to hear about that. Hit me up with an email at etgnerdnews@gmail.com. And I will try to get that on the show. I will take any suggestions. I basically just love talking about nerdy stuff. So if you want to hear about specific nerdy stuff, man, I'll research it and I'll talk about it. And I'll get Joe to come on and talk about the stuff I don't know too much about that he clearly knows more about, like Hellboy.
I mean, I know some stuff. I guess.
But so we're gonna see you guys next week. Do me a favor, if you like what we're putting down, head on over to entertainthegeeky.com. And check out the website. We got the blog posts. We got the nerd news, blurb articles. We're trying to keep you up to date on everything that's going on, and trying to give you a little insight into who we are and the kind of things that myself and Roger and Chris really enjoy about our hobbies. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/entertainmentgeeky, on Twitter at entertaingeeky. And again, check out the website. Hit me up with the email etgnerdnews@gmail.com. I'm going to see you guys next time. Until then, stay geeky.